Nerfs in the Division 2. This has been a huge topic of controversy throughout the community for years. Whether it be when the Eagle Bearer was nerfed, or the Pestilence when that was nerfed, or the Lady Death when that was nerfed, the Firewall specialization, so on and so forth. I mean, for more than not, the reasons are PvP. Actually, almost all of the reasons are for PvP, and rightfully so because the longevity of a live service game like The Division, it relies heavily upon the PvP community. Now, we have not had big nerf talks for a while now, but I think it's time we have this talk because it's looking as if something's about to happen very soon, and I'm thinking we need to brace for another nerf impact. Now, we're going to talk about it, and I'm going to show a whole bunch of history and things like that, build wise, throughout the time of PvP for the Division 2, and explain what I'm getting at and exactly why this is a good thing for PvP. But what exactly would you nerf? Would you buff anything? We're going to discuss that in today's video. So I hope you enjoy. Here we go. What's going on, YouTube? Kamikazevondoom here with another Division 2 video. So sit back, relax, grab that popcorn. Don't forget to hit that like. Subscribe if you haven't already. And let me know what you think in the comment section below. But we're going to be talking nerfs. And the reason being is good old Twitter. Here we go. Let's go ahead and jump over to Twitter. Now, like always, all of this news, information, and more, anything Division related, is going to be on my Twitter page at Kamikazevondoom. Now, I share everything on this page, whether it be from the publishers, the developers, other content creators, news outlets, anything Division related under the sun will be shared on this Twitter page. So if you want to get the news before I do a video, just follow me over here. Now, why am I over here in the old Twitterverse? Well, good old Daria, the community developer, I guess I don't think she's the community manager yet. Yeah, it still says community developer for Massive for the Division, has said this. So a few things. Number one, the holiday event is going to be in title update 19.3. So the holiday event is in the very next title update. So everyone asking about the title update and holiday event and when's it going to happen and why is the holiday event not out, it will be in the very next title update. So don't you worry, the holiday event is coming up. Now the next thing is this tweet right here. No, it's not this one either. Let's see. So this is another one for the holiday event. So the holiday event will have all the exclusives from the previous years, whether it be the Santa outfit, Santa hat, the Slayer, the chill out mask, all of that will be added to this year's holiday event, but they will also have a few new holiday event items for this year. All right, so that's everything holiday event wise. All right, now let's talk about the good old nerfs. All right, so if we scroll down to my retweets, I retweeted these a couple hours ago. So the first one is this that Daria said. The wait is almost over. More news is about to happen very soon. So very soon, the wait is almost over. What is she replying to? Status effects. So status effects have completely ruined the DZ right now. There is so much of it. It's an awful experience. And Daria replied with, the wait is almost over. More news very soon. So, with this tweet, it is safe to say that status effects are going to be altered in some way for PvP very soon. Now, what is very soon? Title update 19.3. Now, we know that because they're pushing it for the holiday event. Now, with that being said, we do not have anything scheduled for the game besides the holiday event and then the last manhunt. Now, the last manhunt comes out in a month. So between now and a month, we have nothing really going on in the game except for the build-up for this holiday event. Now, we know this holiday event is going to be a title update. Safe to say these changes to status effects would also come with that title update. Now, when asked even more about this, I believe Daria said it's not new news. To be honest, the Trello card has been out for quite some time, right? And this is all about the status effects. So, with this in mind, let's go over to the Trello board, because this is what Daria is referring to. Now, if we scroll over, I believe it's under investigating. Let me see. Right here. Boom. This is what Daria is referring to. Status effects from various weapons require a revision. Now, this is what the entire video is about. Nerfs. Because this is going to end up changing the status effects for these weapons. Now, what weapons are in question? Well, I have them right here. Before we get through all of the crazy builds that we've developed over the years for the Dark Zone, here is what we're talking about here. These three weapons. So we have the Iron Lung, the St. Elmo's, and the Ouroboros. All three of these are new exotic weapons, and all three of these give you different status effects. The Iron Lung burns you for half of a magazine. The St. Elmo's will shock you with a full magazine. And the Ouroboros will do any status effect against you for half a magazine. Now, these all came out after that Trello board post. That Trello board post came out in August. All of these items are now in the game after that. And I brought this up quite a while ago whenever we were talking about patch notes, because it felt like they knew this was going to be a problem, and then all these weapons came into the game, and now it's a huge problem. Now, what am I talking about? Well, the Dark Zone is a big part of PvP for the Division community. In the Division 1, the Dark Zone community was a loyal community that had a very crazy cult-like following. It was every day you'd be in the Dark Zone, you'd have your manhunts, you'd have your 1v1 checkpoints, you'd have your farmers, all of the above every single day, because the Dark Zone was so big and you were able to do that, and everyone loved the Dark Zone. Now, in the Division 2, the PvP community has been lacking with support ever since Red Storm departed the Division 2 after the launch of Warlords of New York. Now, that was in year 2 of the Division 2. We are currently in year 5 for content in the Division 2. So it's been over 3 years of content since Red Storm has departed PvP. Now, since then, we have had no additions to PvP, no real big changes to PvP. Now, that leads me to my little build history that I'm going to show you here. All right. Now, this is a classic armor region build for the Dark Zone. When I say classic, this is without any crazy named items, anything at all. It is just Golan, Heligard, and Bellstone. Pretty simple. Anyone can make this build and go into the Dark Zone. Or, well, that was the case when I made this build a couple years ago. Now, with this one, it is 2 million armor with Unbreakable and Adrenaline Rush. I mean, that's been, pretty much the meta for the Dark Zone forever. But there's no hazard on here or anything of the point. I mean, I did have the EMP Sticky and Decoy, but that's just so I can run around and then take out enemy skills whenever, they throw them down. Pretty simple. Pretty cookie cutter. Well, that's kind of changed over the years. And really, probably the last year, to be honest. Because you can see here's another one, Picaros, Coyotes. I mean, some armor regen, some damage. I mean, pretty nice. But then we're getting into the pulse resistance. Now, this was introduced last year whenever the Kingbreaker, Perfect Spotter, Flatline, all of these things were introduced into the game. Now, this completely changed PvP, where you had to run some sort of pulse resistance because everyone and their mom was going to run Flatline because it's amplified damage, and everyone's going to run it with Spotter because it's dumb not to run Spotter with Flatline. So that forced everyone throughout the community to get a pulse resistance build. Whether you liked it or not, you had to get a pulse resistance build, because if not, those groups of manhunts or rogues or whatever, they're going to get you if you're farming or just, messing around in the Dark Zone. Now, they can't if they can't see you. So this kind of switched up the meta. I mean, not in a huge, crazy way, but it did switch up the meta. We had to run pulse resistance. But then status effects started creeping in. So then we had to switch to something more, along this road with catharsis and pulse resistance and armor regen. Because now we have to worry about status effects, we have to worry about everyone running pulse, and you want armor regen for that survivability. Well, that has sadly changed as well, because now it's more like something like this, where you have to run shock resistance and pulse resistance because of the double shock meta. Now, I know a lot of people roll their eyes and, they scoff whenever someone says meta, but that term is in place for a reason. A majority, if not everyone, would be running it for a reason, being the best, right? Now, the double shock meta is where you can shock your enemy with the St. Elmo's engine, but then you can also shock your enemy with that shocker punch holster. Now, this was introduced last season in the game. So, on top of us worrying about the spotter flatline meta, where everyone's getting pulsed and amplified damage upon all the time, now we're worried about everyone getting shocked. And that's another annoying aspect of PvP right now. And you'll see it throughout the comments everywhere. Everybody is complaining about shock. I can't go into the DZ more than 2 seconds without getting shocked. Someone runs up on me, melees me, I get shocked. I go to extract, I get shocked. I mean, I've heard all of it in the comments. And it's true. A lot of people love running shock because it's easy. And if it's easy, people are going to gravitate towards it. Now, there is nothing easier than a full magazine of shock ammo with full shock resistance and the shocker punch. I mean, it's stupid. So basically, anyone against you that isn't running shock resistance is going to get shocked, and then that's it, game over. And that's why I was waiting to show all of these double shock meta builds until recent, because now we're worried about even more status effects. So what do I mean by this? Well, now you would have to run something more along the lines of this, where you are not fully hazard protected, but you're so close to fully hazard protected that you're going to get the status effect on you, but then you can apply it back to them with your Ouroboros while being pulse resistant, and, all those other things. Now, that's a very, very specific way of going into the dark zone. So then finally, you have this Mamma Jamma, where you're just running shotguns with resistance, pulse resistance, catharsis, perfectly unbreakable, and all the armor in the world, because people are now just running full status mortar builds and shock. And that's just the way it is now. So going from something along the lines of this, where there was no hazard, no resistances you had to worry about. It was just be a tank with some damage, go into the dark zone. And now we have evolved all the way down to this, where you're running just shotgun builds with high armor and all of those resistances, plus the catharsis, just in case they have some sort of crazy, mortar build or burn build that gets through all of those other resistances. But this is just what I have noticed personally. And remember, I have been covering this game since it came out. But as far as the nerfs, right? What would be changed? What would I change? What's going on? Because they just added the Iron Lung as well. Now the Iron Lung burns all of your enemies. So if they're not running burn resistance, you can put this on and destroy them. So if you're running up on people that have pulse resistance and shock resistance, all you have to do is then put on the Iron Lung and burn them to death. I mean, it's just so simple. And we haven't even gotten into the bleed builds. Now, what I also wanted to point out is the pestilence. Okay? Now, the pestilence was a status effects exotic when it was first introduced. When it was first introduced, the Plague of the Outcast would drop a plague cloud. And that cloud was a status effect, and it would eat away the enemy and kill them. Now, they changed that because the status effects were so crazy in PvP, and then they made it to where it's just a weapon damage debuff over time. Nothing crazy like that. Now, this has no effect on status effects or anything of the sort anymore. And this is where my mind goes whenever I start seeing more talk about how changes are coming really soon and it's going to be to, those status effect weapons. Because we have these three weapons being the St. Elmo's Engine, the Ouroboros, and the Iron Lung that were all introduced that all carry status effects. So how would we change this? How would we make them equal or, what have you? I mean, how would this even be changed? Do they just take it out of the game? It doesn't really, that doesn't really make any sense. So the only thing that catches my eye here is the Iron Lung. It does half of your magazine is the burn, all right, which is annoying, but that once you start to burn, that they're on their last half of their magazine, you can jump in cover and wait for them to reload, and they're not going to have burn anymore, which makes life pretty easy, right? I mean, there is a counter to that. Not only that, but you could run the Demolitionist and get more burn resistance, and there's other ways of countering the Iron Lung. That's fine. The Ouroboros. You have to be affected by a status effect and reload, but then again, it's only half of the magazine again. So similar to the Iron Lung, the Ouroboros, it's only half of your magazine. And half of a magazine for the Ouroboros is like 0.2 seconds or some crap, because it's shooting at such a high RPM and the magazine's only 50 rounds. So half of that magazine with it, if they miss half of those bullets, you're not really even getting any advantage of those status effects. And that's why every time I do a Ouroboros build or talk about the Ouroboros in any aspect, I never really talk about the talent, because that's not a big player for this exotic, because the damage, the RPM, and the magazine size is already so damn high That talent doesn't really, add or subtract to it. So these two, I'm not really worried about. I'm not. It's the MFing St. Elmo's engine. Now, I've talked about this weapon since it came out. I said it was stupid strong, and I thought the talent was so ridiculously strong that it would have to be changed over time. It would have to. So much so that I made St. Elmo engine builds for probably a month straight. I think it was so ridiculous to release this weapon in this state because it immediately shot to the top of the list of meta builds because of the high RPM, the high mag size, the high total damage. You can have damage to targets out of cover on it for an attribute, and you get a full magazine of shock ammo. And I don't know if you've ever tested this, but if you shoot with the shock ammo, you actually get more damage. So you're hitting harder with shock ammo on top of all of that. And 70 rounds of shock ammo is ridiculously OP. Ridiculous. In PvP, if I have a full round of shock ammo in my St. Elmo's, I know I'm going to take down at least 2 or 3 players. Guaranteed. Unless they're running shock resistance, but even then it doesn't matter because this weapon hits so dang hard because of the high damage, the high RPM, and the high magazine size. So the only thing I could possibly think of when they're talking about status effects and changing stuff, it has to be the St. Elmo's engine. It has to be. I've been preaching this ever since the weapon came out. It is so strong that it's hard not to put this down. Now, going to my normal builds, everyone knows my very top build is my PvP build. Number 1, boom. This is my go-to PvP build. It has been my go-to PvP build since the game came out. Glass Cannon Vigilance has been in the game since day 1. I've been running this since day 1. The Coyote's Mask, all of this came out day 1 of the game. The only thing that changed is I don't run the Eagle Bearer anymore. I don't even have it in my inventory. Everyone knows I used to run the Eagle Bearer religiously in PvP because it hit really hard, the accuracy, everything, it was perfect. The high magazine size, it was a good exotic. Tenacity was nice sometimes. But this weapon took over that spot immediately because it has a higher rate of fire, a higher magazine size, a similar damage, but I also get all that shock ammo. And that has made this thing top shelf for any assault rifle build since it came out. It is a true meta weapon. There is really nothing out there that can stand toe to toe with this thing. Not with the shock ammo and the damage to targets out of cover. This thing is ridiculously strong. Crazy strong. So, how would we change this? There's really the only thing you could do is do something like they did with one of these. So either do the Ouroboros where it's hold on. I mean, maybe more like the Iron Lung, but it wouldn't build up. How would they do that? So you would stack stacks, and then what? Like it would just be half of a magazine? Because that's what both of these are. They're both 50. So just make it 50. Make it at 100 stacks. It's half of your magazine. That would be the only smart, logical way of doing this right now. And on top of that, I don't know. They need to change this. I don't know. We haven't even talked about explosive damage mortars yet. I really hope they make a lot more than just changing, one weapon. That it would have to be this talent. They would have to change it. There's no other way around it. I don't know. What do you think? Because remember back in the day, they nerfed the hell out of the pestilence. And then they said on State of the Game they did not want their exotics to be metas. They did not want their exotics to be top tier. They just wanted to promote different playstyles. But with the introduction of these exotics, being the St. Elmos, the Ouroboros, and the Iron Lung, these are all pretty much meta weapons. I mean, the Iron Lung is amazing. And when the fire bullets hit, it's unstoppable. The Ouroboros has the best burst damage in the game. And the St. Elmo's engine, 70 round magazine full of shock ammo is, it is glorious. I don't know. Maybe, what if they just took it out for PvP, right? That could be another thing. So what if they kept it, right? So keep all of these exactly how they are, but whenever you switch it, you see right here with the blue like overlay, this is for PvP. And then right here, this is for PvE. Now, what I'm switching on and off are those PvP normalization stats. So for something like, Adrenaline Rush, you see 20% here. And then when I switch it over to normalized, it drops down to 10%. So it's showing you what it would be in PvP. Now, what if we did that and it would just take the status effects out? Like, take the status effects out of the Ouroboros, take the status effects out of the Iron Lung and the St. Elmo's engine. I mean, I don't know. But then that would ruin those weapons. I don't know. And the crazy part is there's nothing in the known issues board until like they're about to release the patch. So we're not going to know exactly what they're going to change to these status effects. But we know it's coming, and we know it's coming very soon. But what exactly are they changing? Because remember, even the Lady Death, right? Right here. The Lady Death, it says amplified damage 75%. But if I put it in PvP, they dropped it to 60. So they've even nerfed the Lady Death for PvP. So what if they just did something like that for like the St. Elmo's engine? Like in PvP, drop it down to, I don't know, 30 rounds or 50 rounds or something else. Not a full 70 round magazine of shock ammo. There's nothing more annoying than you're rogue or something and someone just walks up to you and just shocks you immediately and you can't do anything. You can't even move. You literally can't move, and then you're dead. That's basically what people are upset about for the Dark Zone right now, and rightfully so. I get it. As far as the Ouroboros and status, I really don't think it's a player. I don't think it's a problem. I really don't. The Iron Lung and the Burn, again, it's only that last part of the magazine. It's not a big player. I'm just worried about the St. Elmo's engine. Here, I'm going to end you with that. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. But we are definitely getting some changes coming. And 19.3 is right around the corner. I'm assuming, what is today? Today is Thursday. So I would assume either next Tuesday or the following Tuesday is going to be 19.3. So within, the next 10 days or so. Now, let me know what you think about these nerfs and changes to status effects. How would you do it? And what do you think the devs are going to decide on doing for PvP? But yeah, I'm Kamikazevondoom. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care now. Bye-bye then. Peace out.